Greetings Talvar, hope you're all well. So today I thought I'd give you a video as I've just come back from the Leeds Super Major this weekend, and yeah, I decided to take something slightly different. I've been having a lot of success with my Farsight Plasma City list that I took to War Masters, and I thought I'd stretch my wings and play Retaliation, and it did quite well. I was a little bit nervous going into the event because I took a slightly different list than some might expect, and I did my normal thing and prepared for what I assumed was going to be at the event in terms of the top represented armies: Dark Angels, Blood Angels, T-Suns, and yeah, the meta shaped up a little bit differently for this event. There was quite a lot of Tyrannid, Monster Mash, there was lots of Sisters, and some really cool armies and some really innovative lists. So let's go over to the event itself. So the Leeds 40k Super Major was around about 225 players, I think, in total attendance. We had the likes of Jack Tite, Nathan Roberts, Stephen Box, myself, Ben Jones, and a few other top names in attendance, so it's going to be quite a tough field. So if we have a look at the top 10, it was Jack Tite from War Masters with his Adeptus Sororitas. We had Nathan Roberts with his Tyrannids. It was the Crusher Stampede. Then we had Stephen Box representing Sisters, but he didn't take Bringers of Flame. He took the Army of Faith. We had myself with the Retaliation Cadre, and then we had in the Swiss brackets, 5th was Rowan with his Astra Militarum. Then we had Lewis Smith with Tau Empire, so another undefeated Tau player going in. He had a Tiger Shark, which is really interesting, a Chiron list with Tiger Shark, I think. Then we had T-Suns at 7th position. We had 8th, which was Danny Everson, with Necrons. He had the Silent King and the Hypercrypts, so Silent King, Royal Warden, Dimensional Overseer, abilities, you can tell I don't play Necrons, Death Marks, Locust Destroyers, Doomsday Arcs, Monoliths, and the Spiders. So again, a bit of a weird list, but obviously did really well, so hats off Danny. Then we had Josh Roberts, who needs no introduction. Currently was, well, prior to this event, it was #1 in the world. He was running his Necrons, and this list I was actually really worried about playing because he kind of went a completely different way. Took all the C'tans. He had the C'tan Shard of the Deceiver, C'tan Nightbringer, 3 Hexmarks Destroyers, 2 Transcendent C'tans, Death Marks, 3 Doomsday Arcs. So it was an absolute stat checklist, and with the lone up Hexmark Destroyers, being able to do secondaries and stuff, it was just a very, very, very different build. And I honestly, hand on heart, I would have struggled into this because I only had like one particular unit that could deal with a C'tan. So I was quite lucky to dodge that. Then we had 10th Tyranids. So if you look at the top 10, we had 2 Sisters, 1 Tau, 1 Tyranids that were in the top 4. Then we had a Guard, another Tau, a T-Suns, and 2 Necrons and 2 Tyranids. So you had like 2 Sisters, 2 Necrons, 2 Tau, 2 Tyranids, 1,000 Suns, and an Astra Militarum. So we're used to kind of having the meta being like almost like kind of a couple of repeat armies, but it's quite spread out. I think this one was a 2 for 2 for us. So interesting. I really liked how it unfolded. Different. And then just outside of that, we had more Necrons, Demons, more Necrons, and Will from with Tau as well, from the Puretide Program, and obviously he's representing the Tryhard Wargaming as well, so hats off to Will and his performance, and he was actually on stream as well. So, making the top cut was good, and let me show you my list. So, what I ended up taking was I really wanted to bank into the crisis suits, and I wanted to kind of see how they would perform in the current meta. And I know they've been taking plasma fire knives for the anti-marine tech. The plasma fire knives are fantastic in Karen because the sustain hits 2, and being able to do it from turn 2. In my last video when I talked about the Kion list that I took to War Masters, I wanted to see how far I could push the crisis suits, and obviously if you're going to take more suits, Retaliation is the home to be in. So, I took Commander Farsight, I took a Cold Star with 3 plasmas, 1 cyclic, 2 shield drones, just bare bones, no enhancement. Then I took another Cold Star, but he had the enhancement of the prototype weapon system, so when he's selected to shoot, he can choose either lethals or sustain for himself. And on the same, the cyclic, 3 plasma rifles, and the gun drones. And then the Enforcer, so he had the 4 missile pods, the 2 shield drones, and the Starflare ignition system. And then you had Darkstrider. Breach team, 2 Devilfish. Some of you are thinking, well, why are you taking breaches in a Retaliation? Well, simple case is you still need units to be able to bully and dominate primary, and sometimes you need to push out a fast screen to be able to block incoming charges. And I think Retaliation card works perfectly when you can block off the board but also control the board with your 3-inch deep strikes. So being able to do both really can kind of pin people into the deployment zones, and then at least you have an a solution to the problem of, I'm just going to put 10 OC on here. You can just be like, well, here's 10 breaches, or the right amount of breaches to out OC them. So I found them being very useful. Would I continue with 2? Probably not. I think 1 would have sufficed. And then the crisis suits. So I took 3 fire knife crisis suit teams. One of them was all with the missiles to go with the Enforcer with the uppy downy Starflare ignition, and then the other 2 were the plasmas. So again, really good answer to Dark Angels, really good answer to Marines in general, and the AP3 Strength 8 Flat 3 can actually punch up when you need it to into vehicles. All of my crisis suits are on the same with the drones: a gun drone, a marker drone with the team leader, and then a shield drone and a gun drone on the other 2. Reason being, bring it down. It puts the wounds to 14 rather than 15, so it only presents your opponent 2 points with bring it down. They can get a maximum of 4 if there's a commander attached to them. So it's just mitigating points from the points that the opponent can get through secondaries. Then I added 2 Star Scythe crisis suits. One of them all with bursts and one of them all with flamers. And then I had a single Sunforge unit, and that was the worry about the list. I was like, am I disrespecting vehicles? Will 1 be enough? So rather than kind of putting in 2 and having a second form of anti-tank, I wanted to stress test it, and it did good. I'm not going to lie, but I think having a second Sunforge is probably the way to go, because you can do the damage with the first one, and then obviously you can have a second wave coming in to be able to respond. And if you take the game that I played in the semi-final versus the lovely Jack Tite, who ended up winning the event, and congratulations Jack, you're an absolute superstar and you deserve to win, and it was a pleasure to play you, goes without saying. I could have done with a second form of anti-tank. But the rest of the list is Pathfinders, because I won't leave home without them. They're a fantastic utility piece, especially the infiltration and the scout move, combined with the Grundy maneuver in Darkstrider and Devilfish, was critical to most of my early game kind of pressure and board control. And then obviously your 3 units of stealth for the guiding mechanic, 1 fusion blaster, bursts, marker drone, shield drone. And stealth suits actually can punch up in Retaliation because they're battle suits, and you can use them in fantastic ways. You can even fire and fade with them. So if you need to guide but you don't want to lose your unit, you can jump them out, shoot, guide, make sure you kind of like shoot something. A good burst cannon is 18-inch range, so you want to kind of have 1 model so it can shoot, and then it just hops away. But 9 times out of 10 they'll be doing actions or cutting the angles really tight for guiding. But on the odd occasion, you can fire and fade with them if it's integral to keeping a guiding unit alive. Now, Vespid. I've got to say, the Vespid were amazing for 3 reasons. Obviously, their ability, which is different to any normal uppy downy. You go up at the end of your own movement phase. So this is just, I'm going to block rapid ingress. But movement 12 on infantry models, and also still being on 25 mils bases, are really good just to kind of go and do actions, screen out areas of the board, move through walls. And then the other thing actually is that they're guns. 10 strength 5, AP 2, 2 damage shots. I found that I was actually using one unit quite aggressively, and that chip damage or that kind of failsafe to be like, oh, you got a couple of models left because one unit didn't quite kill it. Well, the Vespid will finish it off. So I really enjoyed the Vespid, and for 65 points, they are absolute bargain. They are toughness 4, which is nice to have from an infantry model perspective because most of our stuff is T3. So I really love the Vespid. The blocking rapid ingress came up a couple of times, but just having those extra pieces to be able to go up and down and get me secondary points. So I took them for rapid ingress blocking, some additional damage, but mainly more action monkeys that are fast, and obviously their guns, by the way, have assault. So in some scenarios I was actually advancing them and getting into angles that my other stuff couldn't quite reach. So really enjoyed the list. I will definitely agree that the ability to deal with anti-tank is kind of missing here. What I would change is, I think the missile unit was great to have at range, but I would probably have the uppy downy Starflare ignition system on a Cold Star with fusion and have another Sunforge in there. I'm not going to spoil what I'm working on because that's going to be for next couple of events, and I've been talking about it over in my Discord. So if you want to know my secrets and you want to kind of find out a bit more of my evolution of this retaliation list, then you know what to do. Click on the link below, join, and if you join from anything from Pathfinder, you will get access to my lists. But if you want to know the ins and outs of how it will operate, then that'll be Shastra and Shas L package onwards. So let's have a look at the pairings. So my round 1 was against Demons. Lovely chap, and he had, just get up the pairing. So it's Peter. He was running Demons. His list was Bloodthirster with the King of Blades, so basically whatever it touch it kills. Shalaxi Hellbane, so again whatever she touch she kills because she gets reroll damage, wounds against vehicles and monsters, so pretty much my army. Changeling, so tricky Changeling. You have to take leadership tests, and if you fail, you're -1 to hit. But if he rolls a dice when you get within 12, and if he rolls a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5 or something like that, you are -1, and then on a 6 you just can't shoot. So tricky. And then the rest of the list was 2 Blood Crusher units, big blob of 6. They have +1 to charge with the instrument, and the whole trick with them is that with the Shadow of the Warp, the Bloodthirster will come in, and then they'll come wholly within 6, and then they can charge. So deep strike 3 inches with the Bloodthirster, and then use the Shadow of the Warp, and then run at you and hit you in the face. Blood Crushers do mortals on the charge phase, and then they just hit you with damage 2 weapons, and it can be quite nasty. Then he had a 6-man unit of Flamers, a 3-man unit of Flamers, a 6-man unit of Screamers, and 2 3-man Screamer units, and then a single Brigand just to help deal with vehicles and transports and that kind of stuff. So we played on mission number 1, which was, give me a second to load up the document. I think it was Terraform. Yeah, Terraform and Swift Action. And the deployment map was the Altered Dawn of War with the different, like, 13, 14 inches and then 8 inches. Can't remember what it's called. I think it's Sweeping Engagement. And the game ended... Sort up my results. Usually a bit more prepared, but bear with me. Been a lot of 40k all the time. Yep, so the game ended 87-69. I got 42 out of 50 on primary and 35 out of 40 on secondaries. He got 28 out of 50 and 31 on secondaries. So he still scored high. Hats off to him, finished on 69. Way demon player. But I think this game came down to the fact that he couldn't really push out against me because I was able to control the board state with my 3-inch deep strike and be able to screen, and my screening was on point. And if you don't screen against demons, they will just, like I said, drop a big demon and then bring in all the blood crushers and just run at you. So using my screens, my breaches, my devil fishes, dark strider, just to block off the home field or potentially push out, I think that's what kept me in the game. And then Shalaxi had to stay put, and then when I went in for the kill with Farsight and the Sunforge, I did something ludicrous like 21 damage, and then obviously the Feeling Pains, and then just finished Shalaxi off. The Bloodthirster I kind of just kept contained into one side of the board, and then threatened his home field with like the Flamer Star Scythe. And I think the Flamer Star Scythe were really good. Just a trading piece to go in and then put OC6 on their home field objective. So I think my overall game plan against the demons was just to kind of keep them contained, drop 3-inch deep strike early on and just deny primary and just keep the primary in check. If I'd have gone second, it would have been better because I'd have been able to kind of open up secret missions, but I went first in this mission. So it was just a matter of keeping his primary in check and making sure I was in a position to do secondaries. So that was round 1. Round 2, I went against a lovely guy called Joe. He represents Carnage, and they've been absolutely having a stonker of a year as a team, and it's really nice to see them evolve, and a lot of them are really good friends of mine. And Joe was taking Space Wolves. He wasn't taking his normal Storm Wolf. He was taking Storm Lance. He was taking the Champions of Russ. So it would have been a lot harder game if he had taken the Stormlance, I think. But he had Bjorn, Captain, Chaplain with Jump Pack, Grimnar, Logan Grimnar, Ragnar, Blackmane, Assault Intercessors, 2 squads of them, an Impulsor, Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, Scout Squad, and then big unit of 10 Vanguard, Vindicator, Wolfen, and a Calidus Assassin. So it is still very much, I'm going to run at you. But they've got a lot of other buffs that they can get when they just kill a single vehicle or a single character, and their army can go nuts. So I think with this one, and me and Joe talked afterwards, it was very much a case of I went first again, and it was on Purge the Foe. Joe went first. So that was a huge advantage for me because I was able to get a kill. You don't get kill more on turn 1, but from a primary perspective, I was always able to contest his primary, and I was always able to control the board and just keeping my units outside of like the respective threat range, and whilst also being able to deep strike within 3, it forced kind of Joe to be defensive because the moment he pushes out, I can just blow everything up. But if he's too cagey, I get into position and will come to him anyway. So it was a really difficult matchup for Joe, but I think he played it absolutely perfectly. And we were discussing whether he should have just like frontlined everything, but then we talked it out and was like, well, actually, if he did that, I'd just come in a turn earlier. And I think by turn 3, I still had like 12 crisis suits in reserve. But being able to kind of drop behind him and then also pressure the front was just critical for me. So the game was 100-71. His slapback was very vicious, though, I will be honest, and we were both quite surprised. He killed like 5 units in his, I think it was his turn 3. And then I proceeded to kill 6 units just to kind of get that kill more. And we both didn't expect it, but we're like, what a bloodbath. It was like kind of cagey at the beginning, cagey, and then insert aggression, everything dies. And it was pretty much that way. But I'd already got a very good points lead. His secondaries were atrocious. He was getting unoptimal secondaries. He got Bring It Down on turn 2 and had to ditch it off. and he could have done with that later. He was getting really bad secondaries at the wrong time, like Assassinate he didn't get, Overwhelming Force at early stages, so it was just really unfortunate for Joe. I think he would have scored higher if his secondaries had been on point. He did still score 29 though, but mine were just perfect, like extend and sabotage early doors, defend, recover, secure no man's land containment, assassinate, no prisoners, cleanse and area denial. So they were just perfect for me, frustrating for Joe. So that was 171. Look, Joe, I played you before. Great game, mate. Obviously, always enjoy playing you, and yeah, I look forward to playing again at some time. So then round 3. So round 3, I went into Jacob, another member of Carnage, and also a very, very good Tau player. He was having a break from Tau, so it's good to have a break and play something else, and he was playing aeldari. His list was, quite good, and I look at it and you think, actually, where's all the good stuff? Well, the good stuff is the fact that there's loads of stuff. It's got the Shadow Spectres, it's the Autarch, Wayleaper, the Visarch, the Vrain, Shadow Spectres, Sweeping Hawks, Troop, Warp Spiders, Kabbalite Warriors, Lilith, Scourges, Venom, Witches. A lot of stuff, all over the board, plays the mission perfectly. The shooting is very, very, very good, and I was wishing I had SMS. I didn't, so I was having to rely on my 3-inch deep strikes. Played it very well, and that's Jacob. He just used his assets right, and those Shadow Spectres are disgusting. They can move, shoot, fire and fade, and then fire and fade again with the stratagem, so very difficult to try and kind of pin him in place. And even when I dropped him within 3, he's still got so much stuff, so it was a close game of 83-77. Primaries was my 40 to his 30. I went first on a take and hold mission, so again that's tough. I kind of wanted to go second. My secondaries were 33. My secondaries were 33. His was 37. So because he had loads of units, he could just do secondaries. And I think we had a moment and early doors where his Shadow Spectre's Rapid Ingress moved, and he was going to fire and fade onto the objective, but instead of fire and fading onto the objective, he went for the charge, and then he would have taken me down by 5 primary, which would have been 78-77, but I heroically intervened with 2 stealth suits that he failed to kill, and then holding onto my home field objective. So absolute superb play by Jacob there, noticing that I didn't have OC6 on the objective. I just got lucky and got that heroic intervene off to give me the OC that I needed, because I had 3 stealth suits and Darkstrider. And then obviously when the 2 stealth suits went on, I was able to kill a couple in combat and also hold my home field. So always a pleasure to play. Well done, Jacob. But that was at 83-77 to me. And then we go on to round 4. So round 4. Let me just clear up the lists. So round 4, I went into GSC. Now, interesting because GSC have been. I did a video with one of the top GSC players, Nixos Floof, and I don't think they're as bad as people say. And Sam Parker been doing amazing, was undefeated at this point. And I think he actually did do quite well in overall. I think he went to 4-1, so he only lost to myself. But his list was Muscle Beach. So the Biosatanic Santic Brood Surge, whatever it's bloody called, Abominant, Power Sledgehammer, the Biophagus, Patriarch, Sanctus. So the Sanctus have the reactive moves and the sniper rifle, loan up. They're just there to do actions and be annoying. Patriarch goes with the Gene Stealers, and then the Abominant goes with a big 10-man Muscle Beach unit. The Abominants, what are they called? That's the Abominant and the Aberrants, sorry. Then you've got Acolytes with Hand Flamers. You got Neophyte Hybrids. You've got a Goliath Truck, Aberrant, a 10-man Aberrant, Achilles Ridge Runners with the Mortar, another Achilles Ridge Runner with Mortar, and then the 2 Ridge Runners with the Heavy Mining Lasers. Hybrid Metamorphs, 10-man unit, Pure Strain, Gene Series of 10, 5, and 5. So the idea behind this is that all of the Genestealers can advance and charge, and then the Abominant with the Aberrants can infiltrate. So lots of other stratagems. They got their piling, consolidate things 6. They got the surge move. They just got loads of bodies, and it's tough and it's durable, and it'll hit you like a truck. We played on a mission that is quite bad for scoring primary. It was Burden of Trust, and I went first. Now going second on Burden of Trust sucks as well because you can't do the guarding action on the 5th turn. So our primaries were just abysmal, and because we were both kind of having at each other, the secret missions could have been an option, but I think at the point we still had a lot of resources left, so we just both abandoned the secret missions, and my primary was 16 and his was 12. So it's a low-scoring game. My secondaries were 37, his was 32, so it ended up as 63-54. I think the key thing that for me that helped me in this matchup was having those star scythes was crucial to get rid of all of his little early trading pieces. And the one thing that's really frustrating going into the GSC is that in the early stages of the game, on a 4+, his units can come back, even the Aberrants. You imagine a 300-point unit that just decimates stuff coming back on a 4+. And same with the Genestealers. So if they roll well, they could just have a constant source of resources come back. And then after turns 2, it's on a 5+. So it can still come back. And I think the War of the Attrition then can go heavily into the GSC's favour. And then you're having to kill a big, aberrant unit again. So luckily for me, I wasn't really targeting the Aberrants early because 1, he was staging 1 behind the wall holding primary, and 2, the other one was in reserve. So my Vespid being able to block off the rapid ingress was awesome. And then when he did finally come in, he came in to protect his primary because I was going to do a drop in and then fire and fade onto the primary to deny him with my Sunforge when they killed the Ridge Runners. And then he spotted that very smartly and then moved the Aberrants onto the objective through rapid ingress to secure the primary because it was a low scoring game and every point mattered. And then outside of that, this is why I love the Ret Cad, because you can swap and change where your characters go. So Farsight didn't need to go with the Sunforge because the Sunforge will just pick up the Ridge Runners anyway, and they don't need the +1 to wound. So I put Farsight with the burst unit, so having 24 shots into a unit of 10 Genestealers and a Patriarch meant that I could proc the stratagem, the Arachon Protocol, for sustain hits 2. So doing 24 burst cannon shots with sustain hits 2 +1 to wound means that I'll be wounding them on 2s, which is massive because obviously it's strength 5, but when you're within 12 it goes to strength 6, and then their toughness 5, so +1 to wounds 2s. So being able to flex where your characters go was crucial, and in this matchup Farsight definitely belonged in the burst unit. And then the flaming units were just coming down and flaming the neophytes or flaming the small Genestealer units, and then threatening an Overwatch as well. So that one was a good win, but again quite low scoring due to the mission. And then we go into round 5. Now round 5 I ended up going against Leagues of Votan, and this mission again I went first, and that was actually good for me because essentially what happened, it was the Crucible of Battle deployment, so like that. And Josh had deployed the Sagitors and the Land Fort right behind. So he had like a little bit of a car park. And I screened out the Jaegers with my Pathfinders and just put them in a long line across the centre of the battlefield, 9 inches away from his deployment zone. And then rather than kind of doing the Grundy manoeuvre to go back into my Devilfish, I scout moved forward aggressively. And what this allowed me to do was move 7, charge, tag stuff up. Now he mispositioned like a Sagittor ever so slightly, and I found that I could get an angle with a Devilfish with the Seeker missiles, so I decided to go for the kill, to try and kill a Sagittor, kill the content inside, and then I also killed the Jaegers because I got no prisoners in Air Denial. And then what I did is I put a devilfish in the middle, because he couldn't get any of his damage dealers into position to kill the devilfish, meant that I could stage for a second turn of just blocking those vehicles and making sure the land forts and the Sagitors never leave the deployment zone. So I talked to Josh afterwards, and I think he made the mistake of he won the roll-off, but made me the defender. If he'd have made himself the defender and just sacrificed the Jaegers all on the centre, it meant that then he could scout move with all of his Sagitors, which would have given him the board control that he needed. But instead, he got locked into his deployment zone. And I think that's the key thing about this game. It was just I was able to keep him contained in his own deployment zone and then absolutely bully him and choose the engagements that I needed, because the Vespid were blocking the rapid ingress for the Hearthguard, and I was achieving secondaries, achieving primaries, and then absolutely picking the engagement with things like, right, turn 3, my Sunforge coming in behind you and popping a land fort, because I got marked for death. So the list was his Iron Here champion, Kyle. He had 10-man warrior, 10-man warrior, 4 Sagitors, 2 Berserk units, Hearthguard unit 10 with the plasma guns and the plasma blades, 5 Hearthguard with the hammers and the Vulcanite disintegrators, a land fortress, 3 bikes, 10 Jaegers. So that mission, I ended up scoring 100, max on primary, max on secondaries. My opponent did 30 on primary and 19 on secondaries because he wasn't able to get into position, so it really hurt him. But one thing I will say to Josh is that he was an absolute sport. His secondaries were okay, but his advance rolls and the rolls that he was rolling just to get onto points was just abysmal. It was just shocking. Rolling a 1 into it, he needed a 3, rolled a 2, re-rolled it into a 1, and then I needed a 2 somewhere, roll a 1 into a 1. It was just layering of just dice betraying him when he needed to get the points. So the score doesn't represent Josh's ability. I just think that one key mistake at the beginning was definitely a blunder on his part, which I took full advantage of, but the secondary cards and the dice rolls were not kind to him. So, solid victory for me. And then, I'll just pack away my stuff, and then, boom, you're on stream. Okay, looks like I'm in the top cut. So the top cut game, I will give a big shout out to the streamers. The streamers are called Epic Flail HQ. I will be providing the links in the description. We have 2 games that you can watch for you lovely town nerds out there. We have Will Be and round 1 playing, I think, against Dark Angels. And then you've got me in the semi-finals versus Jack Tite. So Jack Tite is a very, very, very good player. I've played him before, and we absolutely had the same energy towards the game in terms of making sure that we are playing in the right way, sportsmanship, but also being very competitive. Who doesn't like to be competitive and get the wins? But we don't sacrifice our sportsmanship just to get the win. And Jack very much deserved to win the event, and I'm so happy he did. He put up a very good fight, and his sisters list was no joke. Very well created. It has the Bringers of Flame because they're just bonkers right now, but this is not a person who just jumps onto the top meta army. He's always played sisters. He is a faction specialist. It just so happens it's his time to shine in terms of the army is good. But his take on the sisters list is actually interesting for me because the Canonesses on their own were very, very clever with their 2-up invuln that they can pop. It was just clever. Triumph, 2 Canonesses, Emulator, Castigator, Dominion Squad, the Big 10, Dominion Squad, and then Dominion Squad, so you can see where this is going. They all split. Paragon Warsuits with no Val, Seraphim Squad. So, like I said, he said on stream, everything's pretty much under 150 points. It's all trading pieces, and it's speed, and could do damage. Now, his tanks, he had 6 tanks. I only had 1 Sunforge, so when I talked at the beginning of this video about me not taking enough anti-tank, prime example. Still gave it a game. I'm not going to say that I would win if I went second, but it would have been a tighter game. I think Jack still wins this matchup because I think my list had its faults that Jack was able to exploit. Going first on a take and hold mission against an army that has all of these resources was just always going to be an uphill battle. So I think Jack was always going to win that game. But I really enjoyed playing him, like I said, and I hope it was entertaining for those that watched on stream. I think the caliber of play that me and Jack demonstrated between each other was just at the highest level. And if people are thinking that there's still these win-at-all-cost players out there and maybe you are apprehensive in terms of getting into the tournament scene, watch this video. And it's not the only... Me and Jack aren't the only people that play this way. Hundreds of players are playing at this level and still being decent human beings. So honestly, give it a watch. Go over to the Epic Flail channel and watch the streams that they put on. I think it's really great that we're having the stream on the UKTC events because the caliber of play and the events themselves has grown massively over the last couple of years, and it's definitely something that should be showcased. So hats off to them for putting all the effort in, and hats off for Zach to allow them to do so. So this event, where has that left me? So, did really well at War Masters. I'm having a consistent run. And obviously, I'm known for being the top Tau player, Tau Daddy, whatever it is, the Grundy maneuver and all this, because I only play Tau. A couple of years ago, I was happy at this. That was my goal. And then this year and this season, I've really kind of put a lot of effort into representing not only myself, but representing the community that I built, the Puretide Program. Having members in the community support me along this journey has been just so, I suppose, great. It's been lovely, it's been really heartwarming, and I couldn't have done the great stuff without you guys. I've been doing very well overall as a player. And this is something that obviously has been consistent, but last year I was like in the top 50 in the world, like top 50 and then top 20 in the UK, and I was kind of happy at that. And then, I don't know what it is, but I've just felt like I've gone up a level. And I think that what this has done is it's put me in a position to potentially win the ITC. So I teased on the other video, can Tau win the ITC? And it just so happens that after this event, I am currently in pole position. So I have just tipped Josh Roberts, who's been sitting at the top for a while, and I'm like 15 points or so, 17 points ahead of him. I expect lots of other players to put up a good fight and come and challenge this top spot, and I welcome it, and I know it's going to happen because we've got lots of big events coming up. The season doesn't end until the end of LVO. And it's going to be a lot of hard work between now and LVO to hold on to this top spot, but I'm definitely going to go for it. This is one of my goals. I don't really care for rankings as such, but it is nice to know that all the hard work and this consistency is leading me to a position where I could potentially win the ITC. And this is something that I'm both very proud of and will defend with my life. So bring it on. You can see Jack Tite's moved up the rankings. You got Ennis Wilson, who's no stranger to the rankings, and you got Josh, who I'm sure is going to be wanting to challenge me and take his position back. So I'm really happy. I'm going to push it, and I'm hopefully going to have Tau prove that even though we are not the top of the meta, and we're not the likes of like CSM, Broken Sisters, Necrons, with enough practice and skill with a particular faction, whether that be a mono faction, it doesn't have to be Tau, that you can actually still contend with the big boys that like to jump between different armies. And that's not a slant on people that like to jump to different armies, but we do live in a competitive world where there's this opinion that if you're going to have a chance of winning, you have to jump armies at whatever's the top of the meta. I'm proving that wrong, but I have played the faction for pretty much a lifetime. So let's see. But if you want to know more, I'm going to be doing some other content within my Discord to help promote how you can improve your game and what kind of things to look out for, and how to build upon your own journey to improve on the fundamentals and the basic. It's not just about, well, just roll better dice or you take this winning list. There's a lot of craft within the lists that you need to understand the why part, and that's something that I'm very passionate about teaching within the Puretide program. So check out the links below. You know what to do. I've said it 100 times, said it 1,000 more. You know, you've got the different levels for different tiers, for different budgets, and I really take pride in coaching and helping people develop and improve their journey within this hobby that we love. So hopefully this video has been really good. I'm going to be doing probably a Q&A session on tournament play, journey, and giving you, the community, a chance to ask me anything. And I'm going to be opening it up to all tiers, including the free tier within the Puretide program, so that's the Chasui tier. And I will be putting out an announcement soon, but I'm thinking it's going to be sometime on Sunday. So if you are interested in coming and having a chat with me and being part of a big open kind of call where I'm going to let people have questions and answer session with me personally, and I'm really looking forward to that. I just need to iron out a few details and I'll get it posted up on the Discord. So without further ado, thank you so much for sticking with me for nearly an hour and talking about Tau, but hopefully I can continue this stream of success that I'm having, and I'm definitely crossing my fingers, and let's see if I can bring on the ITC crown. So I bid you adieu. Thank you very much. Take care.